Struggling to earn 3 stars at Town Hall 15? Well, these are the 5 best attack strategies you can use to get ready for the new balance changes to 3-star any base. To kick things off at number 5, we see the Royal Champion Charge Dragon Attack. This is going to be particularly strong still, as the Royal Champion Charge itself is still fairly good, but you have the option of running the Lava Loon Puppet, especially after its buff. This is where we can use the Royal Champion with her Rocket Spears to clear defenses early on, since we don't have the Spirit Fox, but we can also start using our invisibility spells every 4 seconds. So this just gets us into the base a little bit better. Otherwise, we just want to continuously use our invisibility spells anytime she leaves the aura of the invisibility, so we can actually keep her hidden. You can also use them to redirect the Royal Champion elsewhere, keep her away from the enemy heroes so she's not targeting them and just going off and doing her own thing. You want to make sure that she's able to clear as much of the core as possible. This also does allow you to turn defenses invisible, so you're able to get the most value out of them. This allows us to then use the Archer Queen with her giant arrow to snipe off 1 to 2 air defenses and any sweepers. This is going to be very important with the Lava Loon Puppet being used, but we've also got the Archer Queen and the Siege Barrack being used to set up funneling on one side. We also can bring in rocket balloons to snipe any leftover air defenses, especially if they're exposed towards the outside. This is going to allow us to control the lava loons more freely if you choose to use them. That's why on the other side of our funnel, on the other side of the base, we're running the dragons to move in towards another air defense to clear that out and start pushing into defenses. We can even use a few Inferno Dragons to cut off the funnel for our dragons as they move closer to them, but we've also got the Minion Prince with his Dark Orb to slow down defenses, especially sweepers if you're going into them, and any other defenses. This allows you to get plenty of good value where you can use a Rage spell and the Eternal Tome to protect all of your dragons and possibly even the Lava Loon Puppets themselves. This allows you to have a lot of power and a lot of air targeting troops, or a lot of air troops on the field, allowing you to very consistently move around. With that Archer Queen, she could actually be used with Frosty to clear the town hall in this case, but it might not always happen. But for the most part, as long as you can create good funneling with your Royal Champion, you'll have more than enough dragons alive, and with the Lava Loon Puppets, they might be a lot better for a strategy like this. Moving over to number 4, we see the Root Rider Smash. This is a very powerful strategy, still thanks to how good Root Riders are at Town Hall 15, but instead of using the Royal Champion Charge, we're using a mini Warden Charge. This is kind of treated like a Queen Warden Charge, but instead of using the Queen with the Warden, we're just doing a little Warden Charge. We want to make sure that we are also speeding up the Grand Warden while he is walking on the outside of the base. This is where then we're going to use 2 Furnaces. These 2 Furnaces are important as we want to speed up the Warden Charge as we work ourselves through. This is going to create enough pathing for us to easily move around the base. Otherwise, this is going to establish part of your funnel on one side of the base, where the Warden is kind of doing his own thing, and the Rage Gem is providing enough buffs for Lil Mini Charge. Obviously, on the other side, we're going to be running the Barbarian King with a few Super Barbarians to control where he goes, and since he has the Snake Bracelet and Spiky Ball, he has a ton of HP to work with. This is going to allow us to create 2 sides of our funnel effectively, one with the Warden and one with the King. Once the Warden clears enough defenses and buildings, we can recall him back and use the recalled Warden alongside the Archer Queen, the Root Riders, and the Valkyries to start working in towards defenses and possibly the core of the base. We also have the Royal Champion that will also provide support, but as we start to work in, especially closer to the town hall, like in this example, we're going to use an Overgrowth spell. We'll be able to reach the town hall and other defenses later, but we want to make sure that we're using something like the Troop Launcher to provide support for our healers with balloons. This is going to allow us to use the Rage spell and the Eternal Tome around the core of the base as we push into high DPS defenses, and even totem spells can be used to distract those high DPS defenses like the Monolith. This also allows us to use the Archer Queen, especially like in this case, to snipe down the town hall. Obviously, you would want to make sure that you are going around it and then having your troops go back to it, but in this case, we had the Archer Queen do that. Otherwise, we can have the Frostflake from the Royal Champion, and honestly, you should be able to 3-star with no problems. This is pretty overkill, so realistically, you could probably get away with running the Healing Tome instead with this, and you'll be more than golden to move through the base quite consistently. Up next at number 3 is the Fireball Rocket Balloons. This is still particularly strong and isn't really seeing any sort of big changes, but obviously we do want to start off with the Warden Charge and a few furnaces to set up a bit of a funnel. We can use rocket balloons early on to clear any defenses, to at least control where certain things are going to go, especially if you're planning the attack and you know exactly where you kind of want your heroes to go to. But for the most part, we also want to make sure that we are clearing as many defenses towards the outside of the base as possible. We're also clearing out any trash buildings on either side of him so we know exactly which way he's going to go. We also have an ice block spell that we can use here to get the fireball in safely. And typically we want to try and group as many defenses with the invisibility spells before sending our fireball into earthquake spells into the core to deal with most of the defenses, including the Eagle Artillery and the enemy CC. This is going to allow our Warden to walk on one side, while on the other side we're running the Siege Barrack to cut off the funnel for our heroes to work in. This is why we have the Apprentice Warden and some Ice Golems to provide additional support as they work around. The Warden is going to do his own thing, so you're able to kind of leave him alone for the most part. You also have, obviously, the totem spells to be used to distract high DPS defenses like the Monolith as you work yourself around. You also have the Royal Champion to support your king and queen as they work through. You should use their abilities as well around this point in order to keep everything alive, and even use a rage spell to provide even more support for them. The Frost Flake in this attack can be used to freeze up things like the Scatter Shot, which are heavy hitting defenses. This allows you to use the rocket balloons towards the back end, while the Royal Champion is able to clear defenses with her rocket spears. Otherwise, for the most part, you are going to be able to keep your entire hero dive and Warden Charge alive, and should be able to get a 3-star with zero problems whatsoever. Moving over to number 2, we have the Super Bowler Smash, but instead of using the Eternal Tome, we are running the Heroic Torch, which is going to be very good after its buff. But for the most part, we want to start off with a Warden Walk, which is already a really good way to set up funneling for our Super Bowlers. So the DPS increase from the Rage Gem and the Heroic Torch is going to allow us to create a really solid Warden Walk with the use of some furnaces to provide support. This overall is going to enable us to create good funneling as we work through this given area. What's really nice about this is that we can now take an Overgrowth spell for later on to control the pathing additionally, in order to make sure that the Heroic Torch ability isn't just making the Super Bowlers go everywhere. But for the most part, we do want to use something like a Headhunter to deal with the enemy hero. But otherwise, we want to make sure that the Warden is being able to clear as many of these structures while staying alive as long as possible. And this is going to allow us to create enough of a funnel on one side with the Warden as he continues to walk, while the Barbarian King is using Frosty and the Snake Bracelet and Spiky Ball. Since the Heroic Torch just allows your troops to walk through walls, we don't really need to worry so much about the Barbarian King being used inside the base, and instead we can have the King be used on the outside to funnel, while the Super Bowlers, the Archer Queen, and any other support troops can work in to help clear through a lot of these buildings. We do want to open walls initially, so using Super Wall Breakers is a really good idea, but we also have the Troop Launcher provide additional balloons to look for any Seeking Air Mines or Red Air Bombs. As we dive a little bit deeper into the base, we can use totem spells to distract, and of course, if you are dealing with an Invis Tower, just before you send in your Super Bowlers, make sure to use an invisibility spell and a skeleton spell, which is why you should always try to bring at least one of each in order to make sure that you can activate Invis Towers. Otherwise, we have the Overgrowth being used and the Heroic Torch ability to basically keep everything alive as we dive a little deeper. Since it is getting a duration increase, this is going to make this even better, and since it's also getting a damage reduction buff as well, it's going to allow us to just keep everything alive as we work through while ignoring walls and gathering up speed. Obviously, you can also have the Royal Champion that's going to be used offset with your smash as you work in. Her Frostflake is great for slowing down defenses and making sure to keep a lot of your troops alive and herself alive. Otherwise, we just want to make sure that we we use tome spells towards the back end to keep everything alive and protected, and otherwise, this will be a really good way to 3-star with the buffed Heroic Torch. And last but not least, at number 1, we see the Super Witch Smash with the Fireball and Druids. This is a strategy that is definitely returning thanks to the Druid buff and the Big Boy buff to where they are now 20 housing space. All you want to do is use a quick Fireball to set up a bit of pathing for your Super Witches. This is going to allow you to send the Fireball in with 2 Earthquake spells and clear a nice funnel. Obviously, we can use a few Druids at this point to keep the Warden alive, especially against multiple defenses, but then we can use our Super Witches to lure him over, and that way we can start to work in with our smash. We also have the Royal Champion, or the Archer Queen, and the Baby Dragon on one side of the base to set up funneling, while the Super Witches are going down the middle part. This is going to allow us to create 2 sides of our funnel with the Fireball and the Archer Queen with their action figure and magic mirror, while the Super Witches are working in. You should be using the Druids sparingly. Try to use them a little bit offset from each other as you work into the base, so you're able to get the most healing possible. Otherwise, as you continue to work in, you should use a Rage spell to power everything up, the Barbarian King Spiky Ball and Earthquake Boots to open up the base further, a Jump spell to get a little bit deeper into the base, maybe more Druids as well, whether that's from the CC or from your own army, and obviously the Frostflake with the Royal Champion to slow everything down. With that Frostflake, this is massive with this, as your Druids are going to be able to heal up even more underneath that Rage Gem, and for the most part, you're going to be able to keep a lot of your Super Witches alive. And with the Royal Champion, she's obviously going to be helping quite a bit with her Rocket Spear as well. You don't necessarily need the Earthquake Boots in this attack, but they can be really nice as well. Overall, this is really going to smash a lot of bases. And if you take at least 2 Druids within your CC within the troop launcher, for the most part, you have so much healing, you shouldn't have any of your Super Witches die. And this overall is going to be absolute overkill for your attack. This is one of my favorite strategies, and it's really awesome to see Druids return, and this being one of the better attacks in the game, especially at Town Hall 15. Now, even if you're not going to use the Heroic Torch, the Lava Loon Puppet, or Druids after their buffs, each of these attacks are incredibly strong without them at Town Hall 15 and will often likely get you 3 stars no matter the base. Thank you as well to all of my channel members for supporting me in everything I do here on the channel, and if you want to join the memberships community, just hit the join icon and choose a tier of your choosing. If you want to improve with the Fireball for the foreseeable future, remember to check out this video here, but YouTube says you might like this one too.